Hi, on the Woodpecker today, as a Christmas gift, I'm making this puzzle kit to make a wooden padlock, just like this one. And yes, it's working. For several years now, I've been giving different kinds of useless puzzles as a Christmas present to my son, and he's very pleased with them. This year won't be any different. This year, for his present, I was inspired by this book. For this, I spent most of my time in front of the computer, designing this padlock. One thing I can say is that it's not easy to make those 11 tiers. On top of the body, I also needed to design the key and shackle. But since I want to cut all this on the CNC, I delete both of them and save the rest in one SketchUp file. Now it's time to make the G-code file to cut this. It's not too difficult. After making a workspace, I just need to import the SketchUp file and I'm almost done. I just move one tiers in line with the rest and that's it. But to help me make the path, I'll move all the different types of path on different layers. This way, all the steps are separated by layers. The pocket, the holes for the key and shackle, all the corners holes, and finally the exterior cut. And here's the final result. But I wanted even more. I also made more layers for the laser engraving I'm planning to add. And after saving all this, I'm ready to cut my first prototype. First, I need some plywood. And now it's time to let the CNC do its stuff. This takes now about 13 minutes. And 7 for the laser engraving. And here's the final look. Not too bad. But just by looking at it, I can see right off the bat some burning with the laser. I'll fix this for the next prototype. But I also need a shackle. I saved this file with those 2 shackles. I go back to Aspire and use the nice 2 sides feature. Then I just import my SketchUp file, turn them flat, and center them. I only add a bit more undercut and I'm done. And here's what I need to carve. First thing I have to do is add some positioning holes. They're randomly placed on the design. Next, I need to add some 3D tabs to hold the shackles in place. I put a lot because I don't want this to move. Next, it's time to make the tool paths. The top side is done. It's pretty similar for the other side. And here's the second tool path. With both sides now. Not bad. I just need to let the CNC do its job. For the second side, I begin by drilling the indexing holes in the wasteboard. Next, I insert some lengths of dowel into the top side and align this over the holes I just cut. When it's in place, it's time to carve the bottom of the shackles. Okay, this takes a lot of time, but now most of the job is done. All that's left to do is to cut the tabs and sand this smooth, because the router bit leaves some nasty steps lines on the wood. After sanding this really smooth, I check if it will fit into the body. Since it's perfect, I cut the key. And separate the 11 tiers. Finally, I can try this. And as expected, it doesn't work. I messed up the shape of some layers, and the key can turn. I still continue to assemble it just to see if I can find more problems. I go back to the computer, make the modifications, and cut the second prototype. I need to assemble it now. But now, for a real test, I cut some pieces of maple for the locking mechanism. This is way too wide. I can make 3 springs with a piece this wide. After a nice sanding, they're exactly the right size. And here's how this works. Since it's perfect, I continue to assemble the padlock. And finally, try it. Wow, it's working. But I had to sand here and there to make this fit. I make more modifications to the design and cut another prototype. This time around, I cut the tab with a chisel. This goes much faster. It's easier and even cleaner. I tried with a knife, but it's not really a success. I'm not done yet. In the end, this one also works fine, but again, I had to sand in some places to make it work. So it's time for more modifications and another cutting session. But this one goes together on the first time without any trouble. This is exactly what I was aiming for. This means that I can now reproduce this padlock as many times as I like. And it's exactly what I do. I cut 3 padlock panels and carved the shackles. But what I want to do is some puzzle kits. So I have to sand each shackle smooth. The only thing I do to the panels is removing this. My kits are coming along nicely, but I also need some maple springs. Each padlock has a piece of dowel in each corner. I cut 1 extra per kit, just in case. Almost done, but a padlock without a key is useless. Now I have all the parts for each kit, but I need to do something for the tabs. Each kit will receive a wooden file. Okay, not just in wood. On each side, I stick some sandpaper. This can act as a file. I also cut some square pieces of sandpaper. And now those are my kits, really to give as Christmas present. But it's also a puzzle. The people who will receive them will have to figure out the placement of each layer. Besides the first and last layer, it's not that obvious. But it can be done. I've assembled 4, and 3 of them work just fine. Yes, here's the proof. But now the real test will be how to go from these to this. And here's Régis, our daughter's boyfriend, on Christmas night.
Tu m'as fait un cadenas!
And also Frankie assembling his padlock. In fact, it took him 90 minutes to figure out and assemble his padlock. And it was, according to them, the best present they received last year. This was how I made the padlock puzzles I made last Christmas. And with all the work that went into the CNC files, I'm now able to reproduce this as many times I want. I hope you enjoyed my padlock. Speaking for myself, I enjoyed making them a lot. And see you soon for another episode of the Woodpecker. Since you stayed up to the end, I have a bonus. Yes, last year I gave 2 of those as a Christmas gift. But during the year, I made several more kits so I can sell them at the Christmas fair. So if you're interested of having your own padlock, just email me and I will give you all the information.